Welcome to Michigan International Speedway. It is race 11 of 14 in the 2006 IndyCar Series. It's the Firestone Indy 400. And as we get ready, we go trackside for those 4 words we have waited oh so long on this rain-delayed day to hear. We go trackside.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
So over 3 hours and 20 minutes from the time the rains first came, we finally get the command to start engines. Here are our weather conditions, guys.
Well, 100 degrees track temperature right now, 85 outside. It hasn't changed much from we first reported earlier, Scott, but you got to believe the track is definitely cooling down because it's going to cool down quick now that the sun's going down.
And
so
probably the biggest thing, Rusty, is simply that because of all the rain that we've had, all the rubber that was on the race course has now been washed off. So a different grip level for the drivers going on in the cars right now, plus a little bit cooler track temperature and ambient than we've seen even yesterday when they practiced in that type of trim. So we'll have to wait to see what the car's going to react for them.
So along with Scott Goodyear and Rusty Wallace, I'm Marty Reed up topside. Down in pit lane, we have Jack Arute, Jamie Little, and Jerry Punch as the pace car pulls away. And it looks like we will get the cars rolling off of the starting grid, albeit a little late, but at least we're getting them out there. Let's get caught up on some final stories. Dr. Jerry Punch.
Well, Marty, here in the Target Ganassi pits, it's all about having what they call a bounce-back weekend following last week's miserable performance at Milwaukee, where both their cars, Scott Dixon and Dan Weldon, finished a lap down, in 8th and 10th position. Now, this team, the Target Ganassi team, has won here 3 times, but they have not won since 2000 when Juan Montoya pulled it off. Dan Weldon has led the most laps on these fast ovals, but he's yet to win. He says, I'm going to be a rocket when they wave the green. I want to dominate today and go to victory lane. Jack?
Jerry, earlier this week, Danica Patrick, the first lady of speed in the IndyCar Series, startled everybody by announcing she would depart Rahal Letterman Racing at the end of the season. A lot of people speculated, well, as a lame duck driver, how would she perform? She's worked hard all during practice, all during qualifications. Just moments ago, before the command to start engine, she took a moment with her crew on the radio and told each and every one of them, thank you for what you have done for me and my career. And then she also said, now I get to pay you back by taking you to victory lane. Jamie, will just have to stay tuned.
Well, she was the top rookie last year. Now this year so far, it's been Marco Andretti, but he finds himself in a unique situation. He starts at the very back today, 19th. The entire team has been stumped. They're running Tony Kanaan's exact setup, and Tony Kanaan qualified 3rd. So they don't know where to begin or where to finish, but the team just said, hey, you have your good days, you have your bad days, welcome to the bad days. And guys, they're telling him to keep his head on straight and try to bring it home safe and get another top 5 finish. Guys?
There's only one way to go, and that's forward from dead last in the field. Let's get the keys to the race.
Well, this track is all about drafting. You use the car in front to hope he puts a hole in the air for you so your car doesn't have to use fuel or use energy to actually go along the racetrack. You also use drafting to help improve your fuel mileage. And survival, you need to last 400 miles here. All the drivers know that. They say take care of your race car on race day, not only on the racetrack, but also in pit lane. You need to have patience and teammate cooperation. If they can help you draft to actually save fuel, that's what they do. They use themselves to actually shut out another competitor, and the teams that have 2 or 4 cars, like Andretti Green Racing with 4 cars, have an advantage of this. The lone team, Marty, like the Panther team with Vitor Mira, they don't have any help out there whatsoever.
And Rusty, we are going to start this race under a running yellow because of the weeper situation that caused that extended delay earlier in the day.
There are weepers out there right now, very little. They hoping that the cars will drive them up much, much faster than the jet driver will, Marty. I just talked to Brian Barnhart. I just walked next door during a break and talked to him. He said, look, we're hoping the cars are going to have better luck than what the jet drivers are doing. So he's taking a good look at it right now. He's paying a lot of attention. He's upset as the rest of our fans are because we can't get this thing going right now. So safety is #1, guys, and he's really dependent on his drivers to give him some good information right now. If the drivers come back, Scott, and say, look, guys, I'm comfortable with the racetrack, Brian, let him go, he'll drop the flag.
So we have one to go this time by, as there's the signal from Paul Blevins, the assistant starter over on the right side. Of course, that is Roger Penske, his driver, Sam Hornish, the points leader right now. Michael Andretti, the man who owns the car that won last week's race, Tony Kanaan, and of course Chip Ganassi, with his two drivers trying to get back in front of Hornish and Castroneves in the championship chase.
Scott, you know, the fans here really want to see this race get going. They want to go home. They need to work tomorrow. You know, the drivers are the same, Marty. The drivers and the crew, they want to get the race done and go home too. But right now, with 4 races to go, I tell you, all they're thinking about is points. These guys want to get the points. They want to have a safe race, and they want to get it done today.
Well, that's what they've been told by their team owners and managers. It's all points, points, points. But, Rusty, you well know that when the green flag goes after this running yellow, you seem to forget about that just a little bit. That competitive edge comes in on you, and you just want to get out there and get in front of the car that's in front of you. That's what we do as race drivers.
Buddy, I tell you, that's well said right there. That's exactly what they're thinking. They're in these cars right now going, boy, this has been a long delay. But, hey, when they light those things up and they really get up to speed, all they're going to be thinking about is talking back and forth to their crew about what they need to do to make the car better.
And as we look at the track right now, we'll just hold there for a second, and there's a small weeper just in that area there. It's very hard to see because actually this is over in turn 2. Now that's right in the middle of the running line, that dark area there. As we start to pull a little closer, hard to see, just a little moisture on it. But if you ever have driven a car along the road and actually you hit just a small piece of ice, say, you know, a foot square, and you feel the car move, that's exactly what these drivers will feel here today and going at 220 miles an hour. And you know, I have had a situation at tracks where you go and you get a little bit of slip because of oil that's on there. It is very difficult, Marty, to make sure that you can keep your wits about you.
Jack, you've got more on the weepers?
Well, as it applies to Roger Penske, the way he prepares and leaves nothing to chance. He talked to both of his drivers last time around, and as they went through the weeper area, he pointed them out to them, and then he also said, now look and see if there's a different groove that you can use. That's what amazes me about a guy like Roger Penske. He's not reactive, he's proactive, guys. If they drop the green and the weeper still exists, Roger has already alerted his two drivers to seek a different line through, as Scott Goodyear calls it, that very scary area.
Now, Jack, we've talked about the weepers on the racetrack. What about pit road? Is pit road dry completely right now? Any issue?
Absolutely, and they've done a terrific job, and we tend to forget how important it is, but one of the reasons why they have been so successful here with drying pit road is the humidity, the high temperature, and the fact that this pit road is wide, has great drainage, and oh, by the way, all of the pit boxes are concrete, Rusty.
Marty and Scott, I remember the race over Motegi where Dario Franchitti came in. The track was dry at that point, but he slid a little bit and caused a big problem. So these guys can't afford any pit road that's wet at all. These cars are 1,530 pounds. They stop extremely well, but they don't stop extremely well when the pit road's wet.
Well, the one thing you have to remember is that anytime you lose control of the car, Rusty, and you've had this in your NASCARs, is that once it goes out of control underneath you, you just become a passenger and you're about ready to go into the concrete wall or hear the safer barrier. So either way, it's not anything you want to chance.
Well, we are working lap 2 of 200. We're doing it under caution, but we are told that there will be 1 to go this time by. In fact, there is Paul Blevins with the green flag in his hand, so that lets everybody know that we have 1 lap remaining. Let's take you through our onboards, and first up, it will be on board with Marco Andretti from 19th. It'll be fun to watch and see if he can move up. Let's go up to row number 6 because Brian Herta has our second of 6 onboard cameras. There he is in the number 7 XM satellite radio machine. Alongside will be Danica Patrick. She's got an onboard camera as well in the Argent Mortgage Dallara. Move up to row number 5, Dan Weldon with the Target Chip Ganassi Racing. He's got 1 of 6 cameras. In row number 4, Thomas Schechter for Vision Racing. And then move up to row number 2 with the 3rd starter, last week's winner, Tony Kanaan in the Team 711 Dallara.
Marty, I tell you a good point that Roger Penske said, pick a lane you can run in. If you don't want to get around the weeper, stay away from them. You don't have to run down that low. These cars are running around the top of this racetrack, in the middle, very, very good. No problem whatsoever.
So it looks like 3 hours and 30 minutes after the rains struck here at Michigan International Speedway, we will finally.
Back it up, 16. Back it up, 16.
You tell Officials telling Danica Patrick to move back. Pace car pulls off, and it looks like we are going to go green.
Green flag.
At Michigan. Our first lap under green, Sam Hornish has the lead over pole sitter Elio Castroneves. It's Tony Kanaan third, Ed Carpenter fourth, and Scott Dixon rounding out the top 5.
These guys are driving right now like the track is in great condition. I just saw Dan Weldon fly through the field. Marco Andretti picked up a lot of spots in the first corner, guys, and he's just going. If we look down the back straightaway, Dan Weldon, he's not waiting for nothing.
He's going underneath Ed Carpenter. So Weldon picks up a spot. He moves up to fourth now.
These guys are weepers. What weepers? Stand on the throttle. Let's get the job done, and we're going to get this race going.
Remember we talked, Rusty, is that when you climb inside that race car, you are programmed to put your foot all the way down on the accelerator and go as quick as possible. A lot of pent-up energy set with these drivers here just because of the rain delay. And right now, boy, you know, you've had that before. Is it a great feeling just to get out and get going?
It's a great feeling to get out and get going. And right now, their minds have shifted totally to driving the car, totally to what the car's doing.
And take a look, Dan Weldon, as you see the Firestone telemetry, started 9th, has already moved up to 4th as he has picked him off quickly here. And Vitor Mira right behind him gets around Ed Carpenter for 5th.
Remember, Weldon started the series off great, winning the first race, but even before that, he actually won with Target Chip Ganassi at the Rolex 24-hour race with his teammate Scott Dixon. He wants to win races. Right now, you see a little bit of cat and mouse going on. Carpenter knew that the two of Thomas Scheckter were starting to look just a little bit. He just moved his race car up the track just enough to take away the lane and make Thomas to sit back and have to try another run.
All right, right now already they're thinking about fuel mileage. They're back in the pack. Anybody back in the pack that can have a good draft will be turning that fuel meter down, trying to lean that thing out a little bit and save some gas right now, guys.
Here at Michigan International Speedway, we are working lap number 8 of 200. Right now it is Sam Hornish and Elio Castroneves running up front. Tony Kanaan is 3rd. Dan Weldon has jumped from 9th all the way up to 4th. And Vitor Mira rounds out the top 5. Ed Carpenter has fallen back to 6th position. Rounding out the top 10, Thomas Scheckter, Scott Dixon, Dario Franchitti, and Buddy Rice. Speeds on the track right now for the two men up front, over 214 miles an hour.
And Marty, we talked about drafting as one of the keys to the race, and it looks like the Penske has some great team orders going on right now. A lot of the other drivers behind are probably doing much the same thing, letting the car in front, which is the number 6 of Sam Hornish Jr., poke a hole in the air, use all the energy, use up his fuel to actually get out there and set a pace. And Castroneves says he'll be actually running directly behind Sam whenever he can, and he'll be using less fuel. And look how close they're getting right now, Rusty, just as close as you possibly can with these cars that don't have fenders.
This track will really set up a good draft. These guys can get bumper to bumper and really put a good show. And as you were talking about that, Scott, I was looking at the times, how fast these guys are going around the racetrack. The top 10 cars are almost running identical speeds right now, pushing 215 miles per hour, 214 at times, and handling real good here.
On board with Dan Weldon. He's trying to get underneath Tony Kanaan. Cannot get the job done. Right behind him. Look at that bump that they hit right there going in towards turn 1 out of the tri-oval. Back on board with Weldon. This time another run underneath Kanaan.
Tell you what, there's no problem with the weepers down low. This car's hooked up right now. Well, you know, we're talking about Kanaan. He tested here, guys. He got to get another test in for Andretti Green Racing, and I believe it's helped him again.
Oh, man, Rusty, you've been watching this too much now. At the beginning of the season, you would have jumped out of your chair with that. I'm doing that right now.
Oh,
215, 20 miles an hour, and those guys are getting within about 4 or 5 inches of each other.
Well, as long as they bang wheels and not get those wheels stuck in between each other, because, boy, when they do that, Scott, I remember that wreck that Ryan Briscoe had last year in Chicago about killed a guy. I mean, that thing burst into flames. But right now, they know that. These drivers know that, and they're careful of that.
And what's happening is that the 7-Eleven car of Tony Kanaan cannot stay down on the bottom. His car is starting to wash up the road. And the same thing with the Vision Racing cars right there, the number 2. of Thomas Scheckter did the same thing. So the guys are having trouble keeping the car in the low lane and moving up into the middle lane where the 4 car is of Vitor Mira with Panther. Look at it again right there.
Scott, just like you said earlier, they'll expect some of these cars to not handle real well in the first part of this racetrack. They're going to have to come in on the first stop and get a good pit stop and readjust these things. I can promise you they're moving sway bars, they're working weight jackers, everything.
You just saw Scheckter had to downshift. Let's talk about this, guys, because this is the latest that these guys have been on this track anytime during the race weekend. It changes the way the whole track and the track conditions unfold.
It changes everything. Track conditions are changing everything. These guys now want to get some laps done, Marty, but they need a caution in about 10 laps. That's what they'd like to have to get down pit road and adjust their old hot rod the way they'd really like to get it. As you saw a little while ago, they're downshifting, they're moving sway bars, they're moving weight jackers, everything they possibly can to overcome the problem they get right now. But I don't see any problem with the guys up front.
No, not too many problems at all. They're doing fine. Team Penske lockstep right now. Hornish with Castroneves right behind him. Dan Weldon from 9th up to 3rd. Tony Kanaan is in 4th. Vitor Mira rounds out the top 5. Team Penske in control. Can they stay there? That's Speedway at the Firestone Indy 400. There is your top 5 after 15 of 200 laps. Team Penske running in lockstep, as it is a very close battle up front. There are the 2 Penske machines. On this 2-mile oval, the turns are 18 degrees in banking, the front straightaway 12 degrees, and that back stretch, about 2,242 feet long.
I'm real impressed with Ed Carpenter, guys. This is the strongest run he's had all year long. His car looks like it's handling good. Looks like he's running down Tony Kanaan, working the top side as we're watching, up off of turn 4. Real good run for Carpenter, Scott.
His car's working real well on turns 3 and 4. Remember, we said before, the white and green 711 car of Tony Kanaan, who's on the low side, as we see Vitor Mira in the Panther car on the high side right now. We think that for sure Tony Kanaan is fighting an ill-handling car right now, trying to keep it on the bottom line. So we'll have to see if he can actually improve it for his next run.
Let's get more from Jack Arute.
Well, let me give you an update on Danica Patrick and Vitor Mira. Vitor Mira made some changes when the rain came. John Barnes put a little bit more downforce in the car. For Danica Patrick, though, right now, she is flying without all the instrumentation that these cars are accustomed to. It seems that the telemetry is spotty at best. They're not getting as much as they would hope in terms of feedback from the onboard computers back to Rahal Letterman's pit stall.
And Danica is running in 14th position right now. She started 11th.
And that information that Jack is talking about, when he was actually with Tom Anderson from the Fernandez team before, they were looking at those computer screens that we were talking about, all the situation as we see Marco Andretti right now starting to run the high line, chasing down Danica. But all that information on the telemetry, which is the information of all the black boxes on those race cars, are fed back real time. That's live back into the pit boxes, so all the engineers get an opportunity to see how the car is handling, where the weight jackers are, what gear they're in. All that information that's on the steering wheel for the drivers goes back right into that. Something you guys don't have, Rusty.
I just started to say, I don't want to be a smart aleck right now. Okay? I really don't, guys. But if she's thinking about NASCAR 4 or 5 years down the road, she better get used to this real quick, because all we got is a tachometer. That's about it.
Let's get more from Jamie Little.
Well, guys, rookie Marco Andretti that we're on board with. Fierce battle with Danica Patrick. They've already swapped position 3 or 4 times. Now, Marco, remember, he started in the back of the field in 19th. He picked up about 4 cars in the first few laps, but Danica Patrick is giving him a handful, and he has been yelling on the radio as you guys were talking about those ill-handling cars. Of course, it's unbalanced. It has been all weekend. They reminded him, hey, you have a weight jacker, use it. So, guys, he's using it inside that car, but remember, he's a rookie, and he's trying to keep it in there.
Well, so far, he's gone from dead last in this field up to 15th. Nothing has changed up front as we're working lap 22. It is Hornish, Castroneves, and Weldon running 1, 2, and 3.
Now, one thing I know, Marty, this is for sure, Scott, once you can practice all you want and try to adjust the car all you want, but when you get out in real race conditions and you get running, the problem becomes very, very evident. Look, I've got a tight car, or else I've got a loose car. And you go right to your weight jackers and everything like that. So this is what he's doing right now.
Here at Michigan International Speedway, you ride along board with Danica Patrick fighting off a hard-charging Marco Andretti. Andretti started dead last in this field. Right now has moved up to 15th. Danica has fallen back to 14th. She has absolutely no telemetry reading in that race car right now.
And that telemetry information is all the black box information that we talk about all the time that she has on her race car, sent back into the information center that's actually in pit lane for all the engineers. And Rusty, right now, it's almost like a NASCAR because you guys don't have that over here in IRL racing, Indycar racing. We're used to having all the information that you see on the steering wheel that we ride along with Marco Andretti. Now we just get tons of information that we love to see.
Well, she's just going to have to race right now by the seat of her pants. She's going to have to tell the people, their crew chiefs, what's going on in the car, Scott. She can't rely on them to fix it for her. She's got to say, I need this or I need that.
Meanwhile, the battle up front is pretty much lockstep. Team Penske has led every lap. In fact, Sam Hornish Jr. has led every lap from the get-go. We're working lap 24 of 200. That's Helio Castroneves right behind him. Let's get more from Jack Arute.
Well, you might wonder why Helio Castroneves has not tried to pass his teammate, Sam Hornish. The answer, fellas, is he doesn't think he can. It seems that Sam Hornish's car is running just a little bit better, and Helio Castroneves is complaining about a loose handling race car. Meanwhile, let me explain to you and update you, Danica Patrick. They are getting some telemetry, but as I said before, spotty at best.
Okay, thanks, Jack, for the update and the correction there, because as you can see, the lockstep formation continues. Boy, I'll tell you what, if Sam hiccups, it's going to be Castroneves that says, excuse me.
Well, one thing that's going on right now, you can run faster bumper to bumper. If these guys line up side by side, it really slows the speed down. And Castroneves and Hornish know that, Scott. They're hooked up bumper to bumper, and they're definitely faster running single file like that.
Yeah, and what you see, actually, every time they come up to the corner, you see the car behind, the 3 car of Helio Castroneves, just move his car about half width out from Sam's going into the turn as we're going down the front stretch right now. Watch him just start to move the car out and get a little bit more air going over the front wings so he doesn't have that understeer, the tightness that you call it in NASCAR, Rusty, because then the car won't slide up the road. He's got to get the car in clean air, get some air to those front wings, and then he'll tuck back in going down the straightaway. Now, you guys have a different system with the cars that you have.
Well, we got a bigger problem, really, and this is a great thing that Castroneves is doing. As you can see here, maybe he's not getting air to the whole entire car. At least he's getting air to half of the car, and that helps.
So these two continue to try and run away from the field, but guess what? Dan Weldon isn't falling back. He's only 0.3 of a second behind in third. Kanaan is fourth, and Carpenter in fifth. Doc, you've got more?
Well, we told you in the starting grid that Dan Weldon had one word in his vocabulary when they waved the green flag, and that word was attack, and indeed he did. He went from 9th starting spot to 4th on 1 green flag lap. Now he's riding third right now as you ride on board with Dan Weldon. Look ahead at the 2 Penske cars. A moment ago they asked Dan, I know you're trying to save some fuel, but go ahead and go to fuel position 2 and see if you can run those guys down. He is going to try down to reel in these guys with the draft. Meanwhile, he's also battling a bit of an understeer and trying to hold off his former teammate Tony Kanaan, but apparently the fuel is paying dividends. He's now only about 4.5 to 5 car lengths back on the 2 Penske.
All right, thanks, Doc. And there you get Tony Kanaan, and he is running in 4th spot right now, 0.7 of a second behind the race leader. We've got to step aside for a break. Stay with us. Can Team Penske hold on the lead after the first round of pit stops? Come back and find out. Back here at Michigan International Speedway, after 32 of 200 laps, there is a top 5. Not much has changed up front. Sam Hornish has led every single lap, and his teammate Helio Castroneves right behind him. But Dan Weldon has moved from his 9th starting position all the way up to 3rd, where he has held station. Guys, I want to talk about Sam Hornish for a second. These next 2 races in the championship chase are really critical for him before we go to Sonoma.
And, you know, he certainly knows that, and he's aware of that, because Sonoma, as you mentioned, Marty, it's a different racetrack for him because it's a road course. He's not really a road course specialist like there is so many of them in this particular series, but he's worked hard, especially in the off-season, going and driving go-karts and going through training schools to learn about road courses. I think he will do a great job. And foremost, we go to the next track, which is Kentucky, which he burst onto the scene with many years ago with Paul Diatlovich Racing, and he has won there. So look for him to be very strong in the ovals.
Does it cause him to change any of his strategy in his race preparation for these two races, Rusty?
Marty, I don't think so. I think a lot of it's in his mind. I talked to him today, and he said, man, I just got to get through Sears Point. I got to get through the Sonoma Road Race. And that's what he said. I got to get through clean. He really feels confident in the day's race here at Michigan and going into Chicago and Kentucky. Those are high-speed ovals that he's real comfortable with. He is concerned about the race over there in Sonoma, but his driving, Scott, is definitely picked up in the road courses. And you got to believe that he's doing everything in his mind he possibly can and in his power to get prepared for that road race down the road.
So Sam Hornish, who wants to gain as many points as he can in these next two races before we go out west, continues to lead. He's led every green flag lap. We should point out we did have the first 3 laps under that rolling caution, and that was Helio Castroneves officially because he was the pole sitter. But since we've gone green, it has been Sam up front. And Dan Weldon continues to dog both of the Penske cars.
Very interesting to see, because there is a report that his car is understeering, which is tight, as Rusty always calls it. And that means the front end will not turn as he's riding along. You see his hands are moving and turning the wheel a fair amount. He likes to hug that yellow line right now and get in some clean air. Sam's about running in the middle of the track. Helio goes just a little bit high. And what he'll end up doing, Rusty, is taking the weight jacker and some of the aids that are actually inside the car and maneuvering those to try and make the car work as best as it can before they can make some wing changes or tire pressures during the first stop.
Well, you know, one thing I've noticed, Scott, Weldon's car is really working good on the bottom of the racetrack. He's not losing any. In fact, he's gained most of his positions and most of his speed on the bottom of that racetrack. So it can't be pushing too bad. It can't be losing the front end too much. Look at it as he accelerates up on Helio Castroneves. It looks like he's going to get side by side off of turn 4 with him right now. Big battle back here.
That is a battle between Tony Kanaan. 4 cars. There comes Scheckter on the low side. Who's going to give going into the corner? And Scheckter gets around all of them.
Boy, I thought Vitor Mira was going to take advantage of that coming off of 2, but you see the 3 cars that were side by side.
Right rear, outside.
As we see the 7-Eleven car on the top side right now going strong, going past Scheckter. Those 3 cars in front going down the backstretch made that huge hole in the air for Thomas Scheckter to get that great run going down the backstretch.
So as this battle continues, Scheckter, Carpenter, the teammates 5th and 6th battling.
One thing I noticed right now, guys, the speeds have not dropped off at all. They're running 33.60s, only almost 215 miles per hour. Hornish and Castroneves in lockstep, and Weldon's been working that thing so good on the bottom. Look at this run right now. Kanaan's getting better. It looks like the race is getting closer and closer as the fuel burns off.
Here at Michigan International Speedway, that is a battle with Tony Kanaan in 4th, Carpenter in 5th, Scheckter listed in 6th, and Mira in 7th. And they can all see each other, and probably if they get close enough, they can tell if one of them has bad breath.
You watch them now. They'll be moving cars around the racetrack a fair amount. The cars are dancing, guys. Remember, we had that rain delay. All the rubber got washed off the racetrack. The cars are a little bit of an unknown for all these drivers right now, but their foot is still flat on the gas all the way around, doing the speeds, like Rusty said, 215 miles an hour. But it's got to be a ride for them. Look at the maneuvering that's going on right now. Vitor Mira on the right-hand side of your screen trying to run that low line, but the cars are a handful for these guys right now, Marty.
And we've got our first round of pit stops. The window has opened. It looks like Vitor Mira may be signaling a drop-off as well. And Danica Patrick is in. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, she comes to the service of the Ray Hall Letterman Argent Mortgage team, and they are going to adjust the air pressures. They've gone up about 3/4 of a pound on these Firestone Firehawks. That's the only adjustment that Danica has asked for. She takes on the 30 gallons of fuel and lights them up. Meanwhile, the Marlboro Team Penske tandem and Vitor Mira have pulled onto pit road. Vitor Mira is not expecting any changes, but not the same for the 6 car and the 3 car. Sam Hornish Jr. likes his race car, but directly behind him, Helio Castroneves has made an air pressure adjustment as well. As Hornish lights his tires up, he goes across the line first in the drag race between teammates.
So as we get the first round of pit stops, and these are the biggest pit stops, or biggest pit stalls, I should say, in the series. And here is Kanaan in, Jamie Little.
Tony Kanaan, but on the move, the car is slowly coming to him, guys. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment on those tires, but no chassis changes. He's happy with the car. He's out in 9.4 seconds.
And And we appreciate the official making that duck at the last minute so our camera could show you as Tony streaks back out onto the track. There's nothing wrong with your television set there, folks. That camera has got some fog in it. That's how humid it is here at Michigan International Speedway. We're just hoping that it dries out and gives us a little bit better shot, but we have to use it occasionally. Just hang with us as these laps continue to fly by. And Marty Roth, who last time we saw him tried to qualify, he brings out our first yellow. He tried to qualify for the Indianapolis 500. Up, listen to Weldon.
Stay out if you can.
They're telling Weldon to stay out because he had inherited the race lead. He did not make the stop under green. So right now, he is the race leader as Marty Roth brings out our first caution at lap 45.
Well, a big break for both Weldon and Dixon of the Target Chip Ganassi team. They get to pit underneath yellow instead of having to pit underneath green.
Just wait for him. Just wait for him.
So there is the pace car, and the word is now, I mean, these guys have got to be very low on fuel. They're working lap number 44, and remember, there was 3 laps under caution. They're actually on their 47th lap.
Well, right now it looks like they got the field down a lap, but they're probably starting to run out of fuel. I think we just heard some of them complain about, hey, this engine's missing. It's starting to quit on me.
Doc, you've got more?
Yeah, exactly, guys. Both the Target cars are going to have to pit now. They would be out of fuel. So what the IRL is going to let them do is come in and just put enough fuel in the car and go back out unless they open the pits. Now they're discussing possibly opening the pits as these guys are running out of fuel on the racetrack. And now the 9 of Dixon is out of fuel on the racetrack.
The 9 car, and this has got to be heartbreaking because they told him to stay out if you could. And he stays out. Now it's going to cost him dearly.
But there is a rule in the IRL, Marty, right now that if when it goes yellow, if you're going to run out of gas, you can come in, put a couple of gallons of fuel in the car, and then actually leave the pit box, go back out onto the racetrack, and you still have to come in to fill up the tank and change tires.
But Dixon's not even going to make it to pit lane. He's in turn 3. Here comes Dan Weldon. Let's go pit lane.
Well, Dan Weldon was about to make that pit stop a moment ago. Remember when the yellow came out, he was coming in on that lap. In fact, Dixon had been called in the lap before, and they told him to stay out an extra lap. And now you see the result, a front wing change for Weldon. You heard him complaining earlier of an understeer situation. 9.3 seconds for Weldon in the Target Ganassi car. Meanwhile, Scott Dixon, his teammate, not so lucky. There's Dixon's car rolling to a stop, rolling so gingerly up between turns 3 and 4. He will not make it back.
You heard the crew tell Dan Weldon, watch your pit speed. The reason is Brian Herta is going to get a penalty for speeding in pit lane. Last year's winner is going to have a real problem now because he's going to have to come back in to serve the penalty.
You talk about a huge loss of points right now, though. Talking about points, Scott Dixon right up there in the points, stalled in turn 4 right now. Huge mistake on the team right now to keep him out.
Brian, we got a car stalled on the track at turn 4.
And there is Scott Dixon still out in turn number 4. And let's go down to pit lane once again.
Well, Barry Wanzer talking to Chip Ganassi here as we stand on the stand. And Chip, you just brought your one driver, Dan Weldon, in, and Scott Dixon not quite so lucky.
Yeah, you know, Jerry, I don't really know what's going on there with Scott. He's at the other timing stand there with Mike. You might want to talk to him. But Dan's okay.
Dan's all right. So you're not listening to Scott. Basically, you were trying to orchestrate what's going on with Dan.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Chip Ganassi up here. He saw what happened to Scott Dixon a moment ago, but Mike Hall, the managing director, basically called Scott Dixon in a lap early and then said stay out because they heard there was going to be a yellow, which anyone would expect a driver to do. And of course, making him stay out, which is what they wanted to do, cost him that fuel situation, and now he's going to have to be towed back in.
Cost him the fuel. It may cost him his chance at the championship. He's 2 laps down. You're not going to recover.
You're not going to recover from that. And you know, there's cars that are out there running right now. You're going to not very many points this weekend. You hit it right on the head, Marty, and this he knows, but it goes back to what I said a second ago. You see the fuel number in the steering wheel. The team sees it on their telemetry computer down in the pit lane. If you think you can run out of fuel, there is a rule in the IRL that allows you to come down pit lane as you watch Dixon's car now get towed. Come in, put 2 gallons of fuel in the car so it will not run out of fuel on the racetrack. Go back out, rejoin the group, and then when they open the pits, then you're allowed to come in there and make a full, complete stop with more fuel and tires.
That's a rule that people are probably not accustomed to hearing, but that is the rule in IRL. And you saw a little while ago, Dixon's so frustrated, run out of gas. He's shaking his hands over there right now going, get me in the pit area, get me in the pit area, because he knows he's losing these precious points. To run Scott Dixon out of fuel right now, huge mistake on Ganassi's team. And I know one thing, they must be relying on their telemetry, but something went erroneous there.
So we're under our first caution here at Michigan International Speedway. Marty Roth brought it out with a problem on the backstretch, but an even bigger problem for Scott Dixon as he ran out of fuel before he could make his pit stop. He is now listed as 2 complete laps down in 18th position, and the man in the points championship chase may have had his championship hopes dashed as he was only 25 points out of the lead, but here he finally gets his fuel and is back out. Koski Matsuura is listed as the race leader. Brian Herta is listed in second, but we can tell you Herta is going to get a penalty for speeding in pit lane. So Koski, who has still been out there, I don't think Koski's made his stop yet. He did? Yes, he did. He did make his stop. So, Jamie, you've got more?
Well, guys, right now I just talked to George Kloach. You're looking at him right now. He's the race strategist for the number 7 of Brian Herta. And I asked him about a penalty. He said they have not said anything. The IRL has not told me we have a drive-through penalty. They said that initially there may have been an entry violation on pit road. And if that were the case, like Scott was saying about the rules, he'd have to make a drive-through pit road here. But right now he's credited with second position, and the team has not gotten an official word on a penalty.
So Brian Herta will get an official ruling from Brian Barnhart and the Indy Racing League officials as we continue under this first caution. We're now working lap 48 of 200. We're going to step aside for a break. Stay with us. A lot more coming here at Michigan International Speedway. Back here at Michigan International Speedway, we are just about ready to go back to green flag racing, and all of a sudden Sam Hornish pulled into the pit, and we didn't know why, and we still don't know why, guys. They did not top him off. They did not change tires again. They were looking up into the tunnel, Scott.
Something on the left side of the race car back around the midsection, and they did not take any body panels off, so we'll actually see if we can get a report for what's going on down there with Jack Arute. And Jack Arute, have you got an update on with us?
Yes, Scotty. According to the telemetry, and it shows that Sam Hornish Jr.'s engine was beginning to overheat. Helio Castroneves, his teammate, actually told the team that he was getting some spray. So they came in and they looked at the side pods where these radiators are located. Now, leaving nothing to chance, you can see Team Penske has gone to work to prepare a radiator if they have to effect a replacement for Sam Hornish Jr. in this points chase and in this race.
Well, now the drama continues to unfold because Sam Hornish came into this race with a 25-point lead over second place Scott Dixon. Dixon is shown in 18th place, 2 laps down. Sam Hornish is now 1 lap down in 17th place because he had to make that extra stop. Our race leader is Koski Matsuura.
Jack, has he said anything if they found anything in the side pod? That they pulled any trash out of there or debris or anything?
No, in fact, they took a big flashlight, they looked inside, and they couldn't see any debris there. They're going on the debrief from his teammate, Rusty, as Helio Castroneves says he was getting a lot of spray, and based upon the Honda engineers and what they're seeing in the engine performance telemetry here in Penske's pits, I think what they're going to try and do now is ride this horse as long as they can, but as I said, be prepared if they have to effect a change.
Scott, if there's water coming out of that thing right now, if they haven't found any debris, you got to believe there's something wrong with that radiator.
So there is what happened back in the pit lane with Sam Hornish as we're getting ready to go back to green flag racing here on lap 53 of 200. Michigan International Speedway, this is what we were looking for. 3 and 4 wide as we've just gone back to green flag racing. Koski Matsuura, the race leader, you're on board with Brian Herta, who's listed in second.
You should have seen a little while ago Dan Weldon bumping tires, coming down the front straightaway with Elio Castroneves just banging along, coming down at the start-finish line. These guys are racing like it's the last lap.
And Matsura has been going backwards. Herta now takes over the lead. Mira moves into second. Schechter third. And Koski's been bumped to fourth. Take a look on board with Dan Weldon.
Here's the restart. Just some bumping of the wheels going on right there from the 6 car from Sam Hornish. Remember, he had to come to the pit lane. He had a problem, and he went back out on the race course. He is down a lap right now, leading the points championship, lives in Defiance, Ohio, just 60 miles away. He wants to win this hometown race for himself.
Look at this. On board again with Weldon, listed in fourth, but the positions are changing so fast it's impossible to keep up.
Well, the one driving hard right now, Sam Hornish, he wants that lap back really, really bad. He's desperate. He wants it. He wants his championship, and that's where you see him driving so hard right now. He's desperately wanting to get this thing up front. You see a caution flag, get back in the lead lap.
Hornish trying to get underneath Vitor Mira as they come by the stripe. Mira, your race leader, back on board with Weldon. Remember, Dixon is 2 laps down. Oh, man, that is so close. That's going to give Chip Ganassi heartburn if he sees that on camera.
Well, you know, I'll tell you what, Dixon, he doesn't want to give up. He's 2 laps down, which sounds like a lot, but lap 56 of 200. Look, anything can happen. If he can get one back, get another caution, Scott, get another one back, he's back in the ball game. It's probably going to be at the end of the race.
We got him all the way down the apron right there. Elio Castroneves was pushed down below the white line. We'll have to figure out what went on there. Forced down below the white line. Remember, they're going 2 or 3 abreast here. We've had this rain delay, Rusty, as we were talking about before, but, you know, these guys you'd think would actually be a little bit calm thinking about the points championship, but it's almost like keeping an animal in their cage for the whole day and finally letting them get out there and get going.
I'll guarantee you, they're thinking about that right now. Barnhart was very emphatic as we watch this replay with Hornish. Let's watch this on the bottom.
Right underneath the 7 car.
Castroneves on the bottom. Now look, Brian Barnhart talked about this in the driver's meeting. He was really emphatic. If you get that doggone thing below that white line, I'm going to be talking to you.
Yeah, there's a discretionary call on Barnhart as Vitor Mira continues to lead here as Sam Hornish is desperately trying to get ahead of him to get back on the lead lap, then get a caution, which gets him back into the race.
Exactly what he's trying to do right now, and I'll tell you, Vitor Mira is very much aware of that. He wants to keep him behind because he knows that Sam will be a threat if he gets back on the lead lap. Now, this orange car, we talked about it before, Panther Racing has won many races with the Panther team, but you know something? Vitor has never won, and right now, the whole group over there must be very excited to see how strong he could run out in front by himself.
Jack, you've got more on Vitor?
Oh, yeah, Marty, you would think this pit crew and the fans from Revive down here were at a football game, the way they're cheering each time their driver goes by. Keep in mind that Vitor Mira had a very eventful March. That was when he got the call from John Barnes. It was also after that call that he decided to propose to his longtime girlfriend, who he had dated since she was 13 years of age. They will get married at the end of the season. Before the start of the race, Vitor joked with me and said, better than a diamond, a winner's trophy would be great. Let's go back upstairs.
Yeah, because we got a problem. Sam Hornish Jr.'s in trouble.
So Hornish is in trouble. We knew, Scott, that, hey, if that thing's shooting water out of it, it's a matter of time before it burns it to the ground. It's got to be way overheating right now. The engine just came missing right now. He's coming down pit road. He's coming to you guys.
Well, I tell you something right now. If this is the case, Sam Hornish is not going to get too many points. We saw Dixon have a problem. This turns out great for Elio Castroneves, who crashed last week at Milwaukee, and also Danny Weldon, who wants to catch back up in the points champs, Marty.
We talked about it earlier. Sam Hornish needed to get as much points as possible in these 2 races before Sonoma. He's got a problem now. He's in the pits.
And Marty, they have shut the Honda engine down. They are going to have to take the rear bonnet off, which was a little bit of a job here with all the different crashes. And they will take a quick look at the engine and the cooling system. Right now, they're based on performance telemetry, trying to ascertain if it is indeed an overheating problem. But this is costing them valuable time and, more importantly, fellas, precious points in the chase.
500 friends and family from Defiance, just an hour down the road, made the trip up here to hopefully see Sam Hornish extend his points lead. Right now, he could potentially surrender it depending on what happens with Helio Castroneves. First and second in the points right now, guys, are in trouble. Dixon's still running 17th. Hornish is in the pits and soon to be like 18th permanently.
Well, we talked about not making mistakes. They haven't made a mistake. They had a failure. They broke apart. That's way different than make a mistake, Marty. And look at Marco Andretti all the way up to 4th place right now.
So Marco Andretti on the move while all this action is happened. We've got Mirror up front, Dan Weldon 2nd, Thomas Schechter 3rd, Marco Andretti, you're on board with him there in 4th, Ed Carpenter still a solid 5th, Helio Castroneves in 6th, and smelling blood because he knows 1st and 2nd in the points are in trouble. So as all this starts to try and settle down again, don't go away. We're going to step out for just a few moments because it could get exciting again.
Well, Sam Hornish Jr. is trying to get his Marlboro Team Penske car refired. It does. He lights the Firestone Firehawk tires up, fellas. He is back in the race. He's many laps down. Here's what they did. They think they may have found a vapor lock in the cooling system. Quick work located it, and now they're going to see if Sam can get back up to speed many laps down.
Well, he's going to need NASA's help. He's 10 laps down. He's shown in dead last. Marty Roth is the next closest to him, and he's got to make up 6 laps on Marty just to get to 18th. Meanwhile, Dan Weldon and Thomas Schechter going side by side. That's a battle for second. You're asking who's out in first? Vitor Mira by almost a full second. Jerry, you've got more on Schechter?
Well, Marty, Thomas Schechter got the first top 5 ever for Vision Racing, a team that didn't exist until January 31st of 2005. And right now he's saying to his teammate Ed Carpenter, if you will stay glued to my rear, you and I will be able to use the draft and make our way to the front. In the final practice session yesterday, they were not very quick alone, but together they were able to work their way through a whole pack of cars. And now what Carpenter is trying to do is push his teammate Thomas Schechter by Dan Weldon for second spot.
You know, you think about the Vision Racing and Thomas Schechter. He's won here before, but here's a driver with Vitor Mira that's not won in this series whatsoever. I think about all the laps he's leading today, guys. He had only led 2 races so far this year for 3 laps as we watch the 6 car of Sam Hornish coming back in. Vitor Mira, 29 years old from Brazil, a great young man, but still looking for the first win, Marty.
So more problems for the points leader. Meanwhile, Vitor Mira, and you guys mentioned this in our rain show earlier on ABC on Sunday afternoon, Mirror was going to have to do this alone, Rusty. He's got no help. He's not like the Vision guys where they can hook up and freight train.
You're exactly right, Marty. He doesn't have any help. But, you know, if you look behind him, guys, everybody's racing side by side back there. It's just letting him get gone. They're side by side racing behind him. They're dicing all over the place. And Vitor's basically checked out on him. Now, he really was happy with his car yesterday. I think that had a lot to do with it. Very confident in his car.
Uh-oh. Sam Hornish is out. The gloves are coming off. This race is over, and Hornish is going to end up officially in 19th spot as Sam, his prior worst finish was just a couple of races ago. Remember when he crashed at Nashville? He finished 14th there. And the man who won at Indy, Richmond, Kansas, he's going to have to regroup and hope that he holds on to the points lead and that something else happens to the other 2 that are still running well, Weldon and Castroneves, his teammate.
As reliable as these Penske cars have been all year long, this is a real surprise that this has happened. It doesn't look like it was a Honda engine failure. It looked like it was a cooling system problem on the car that finally put them out. Jack, as he said, if the engine got burnt down out there, just overheated and killed the engine or what?
Rusty will find out. Sam, was there any warning? What was the temperatures like in the cockpit with that engine?
We don't even know if the temperature's actually up or if it's something that's in the boxes, or we don't even know what's going on with it. It just really a big shame, you know. Only guy to have a problem. So what are we going to do about it? I don't know what to say. It's a shame. Marlboro Team Penske gave me a good car. We could lead when we wanted to, and see what we can do in Kentucky. We're going to have a big hole to dig ourselves out of again.
Thanks, Sam. Fellas, let me update you. Here's what the concern is. All of a sudden, it may have been a false read. All of a sudden, I'm hearing here.
Yeah, Jack, not to interrupt, but boy, Helio Castroneves almost got pushed to the wall again. 2 races in a row, and this time he just barely holds on to it.
Well, you have to remember, see who he's battling with there, the 20 car. Ed Carpenter, remember, he had that problem just last week at Milwaukee, so I don't know, that was almost looking like a little bit of the Tony Stewart swerve there, Rusty.
I think this is the first time Carpenter's been in a position where his car's been this fast, where he can be up there with these guys that run as competitive as you're running guys. We'll go back to the replay and take a look at it. He's getting around outside of Carpenter right here. Big run. Big draft right there. Let's see from the back shot here, coming at you just a second. Got a little loose there, didn't he, guys? A little loose there. Looks like up off of turn 2 is where this problem's going to happen. I saw some smoke off that right rear tire.
And exactly what's happening here right now, as you see, he puts his hand up in the air and says, what are you doing? Runs him down to the white line. But what Carpenter, the 20 car, is doing is his car's not working well. He's trying to get in that middle lane as the car in front was on the low line. He's looking for the clean air in that middle lane. Maybe didn't know that Elio was as high, but you know, that's 215 miles an hour, man.
No, I'll tell you, Elio's got to be careful now. He can't let his frustration get to him and cause himself to have a problem. You know, to run him down on the bottom of the racetrack that little bit, that's frustration, guys. He's not going to win a championship acting like that. I'm a big Elio fan. Everybody knows that. But this guy needs to cool down just a little bit right now and get his rhythm back.
+2, 3 wide behind.
I'll tell you one other thing. I'm watching this up here right now, Rusty and Marty. I'm glad I'm actually in the television booth for doing this for so many years. I didn't know we were so crazy out there.
And these guys are still going after it, and we aren't even halfway through this race. The drama continues to unfold. 2 of the top 4 in the points are in trouble. Let's get a period on Sam Hornish's story from Jack Arute.
Yeah, fellas, what I'm beginning to hear down here on pit road, not just with Sam Hornish, but with several teams over the course of the last 2 races, and we saw it last week in Milwaukee, if you remember, ECUs, the electronics on these Honda engines, are beginning to create some false reads. That's what's got everybody concerned right now, and if you recall, when Sam Hornish came in, instead of changing the radiator, he changed the ECU unit. So all of a sudden, some of this high-dollar telemetry that these teams rely on, they're getting false reads from the ECUs.
All right, as you finish up, Castroneves and Weldon are now duking it out for 2nd place. That's right. Castroneves got around Scheckter and has been battling with Weldon. Meanwhile, look at be careful. They told you about that white line.
I can't believe how much swapping and weaving is going on right now. Castroneves is driving like a man possessed.
Well, he said he was going to do that too, Scott. He said he's going to drive his brains out. He's going for it. He said, I've tried to be the Mr. Nice Guy stuff. Heck with that. I'm going for it. I'm just concerned he's going a little too hard right now.
Yeah, but that's my question to both of you guys. Doesn't that increase the risk factor of taking yourself out of this thing?
Well, it really does, and I think this is a point where Tim Cindric's got to come in and say, hey, Elio, got a fast car. Calm down a little bit. I know you're mad and you want to get the job done, but cool off a little bit.
And all of a sudden, Weldon is fading quickly as he has dropped about 4 positions. We've got a break for this moment, but stay with us. We'll come back. We'll get you updated on what's happening to Dan Weldon and how is Vitor Meira doing this all alone in front. Back here at Michigan International Speedway, Vitor Meira is your race leader, but we are getting very close to the 2nd round of pit stops. In fact, it is Helio Castroneves, who was running as high as 2nd place. He is in the pit lane for his 2nd stop. Jack Arute?
All right, here we are, 3.
Well, Helio Castroneves, surprisingly, has not been scolded by Tim Cindric. Instead, they discussed what changes they would make to his race car. They have gone to work exchanging, and this looks to be a nominal pit stop. No changes, no air pressure changes. And Helio Castroneves is the first of your front leaders to pit. Danica Patrick made a slight tweak adjustment to her car, and she's in 3rd. But now, Vitor Meira is on pit road, resetting his fuel, being counted in, getting ready for the service from the little team that could. The diminutive Brazilian waiting with the All-American team here to try and hold on to the lead in this green flag exchange of pit stops. Waiting. And Meira is on his way, fellas.
9.5 seconds on the pit stop for Vitor Meira. Right now, Thomas Scheckter is now your race leader. He has yet to make his second stop. Tony Kanaan moves up to second, Weldon's third, and here comes Scheckter now. Or it's Ed Carpenter coming in. Carpenter was running in the top 5 as well, but he's on pit lane, as is both Fernandez cars. And the 2 wheels below the line means that Schechter's telling everybody behind him he'll be coming in this time by. Doc, let's go pit side.
As his teammate Ed Carpenter gets his full of fuel, he'll be pulling away, and now Thomas Scheckter will come down pit road at 60 miles an hour, his second of what should be a 4 pit stop afternoon. Thomas Scheckter, who was very angry a moment ago, thought he might have gotten cut off by Helio Castroneves. Scheckter comes toward his pits. Let's check in quickly with Jamie Little.
And Tony Kanaan brings it down. Last week's winner from Milwaukee. They're going to make a small adjustment on that front wing that you see there. It's 4 tires, full fuel, and he is running back. Dr. Punch.
They are holding Thomas Scheckter. Nearly got him full of fuel. He is down and away, but he will be behind Tony Kanaan as they exit pit road.
So Kanaan's pit crew does a quicker performance, gets him out ahead of Thomas Scheckter. Dan Weldon is now your race leader. You're on board with him right now. That's Scott Dixon outside, but Dixon is still shown 2 laps down.
I'll tell you guys, the one that's really got the job done is Vitor Meira out there. He is still just putting it on him.
I think Weldon signaled that he may be coming into pit lane this time. I thought I saw him dip 2 wheels below the line, and yes, he's out of the throttle. So Weldon makes the turn. Jerry Punch, he's coming your way.
And remember, last time he was in, they made a major front wing adjustment for Dan Weldon. He has also complained that the car has a significant understeer in the corner. That's why he couldn't fend off Vitor Meira when he came by. Let's watch and see. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment. Reigning series champion Dan Weldon. Remember, his teammate already 2 laps down. He's out of the picture. So Dan carrying the Target Ganassi colors. Let's listen in and watch as they make this 4-tire change and more wing adjustment on the front. Down and away.
Also making the stop right there, coming up behind him is Brian Herta, and we should put a period on that. We were told incorrectly that he was speeding in pit lane. They went back and looked at it. He was not speeding, and he was not assessed a penalty. So Herta, Brian's still on the lead lap. There is Vitor Meira. We're waiting to see how everything's going to shake out. He should be the leader and is shown right now ahead of Helio Castroneves, Tony Kanaan, and it looks like Dan Weldon will come back out in 4th position. Nope, that's not going to be the case. Weldon is still trying to get up to speed, and they are passing him right now. It is Meira definitely in front, though, and there is Helio Castroneves. Can Vitor Meira get his first win of his IRL career? Well, there's 93 laps down. Still a long way to go. Back here at Michigan International Speedway, you're looking at the race leader, Vitor Meira, the little single-car effort that could. In front of Helio Castroneves, his teammate Sam Hornish Jr. is out of this race, listed in 19th place officially. And these two have tried to pull away from Tony Kanaan, Dan Weldon, and Thomas Scheckter. So here at Michigan International Speedway, let's get you up to speed as we go through the field. And Jack Arute, you're up first.
As we've said, Vitor Meira had an eventful March, but right now Vitor Meira has a very heavy heart. You see his fiancée Angelique just graduated from college in Brazil and is packing her bags and her belongings to join Vitor here in Indianapolis in the next couple of weeks. They were in Nashville together, but Vitor, with a wry smile today, said, "If I win, it will make the reuniting that much better." The car that is in second and closing is Helio Castroneves. Castroneves, liking a higher line, had a little bit of understeer early in the race. They corrected it, however, with an air pressure adjustment. And right now, some fast pit stops have put Castroneves in contention for the lead. Let's go to Jamie Little.
Well, Jack, right behind Helio is another Brazilian, and Tony Kanaan running third right now. He started third. His car has come to him. They've made some adjustments on the car. But hey, if anything taught us, if we learned anything from last week, we know this guy can hang it out till the end. Last week's winner, of course, Tony Kanaan running third.
Well, reigning series champion Dan Weldon qualified in 9th, but didn't stay there very long. On the very first green flag lap, he soared all the way to 4th spot and eventually 3rd 2 laps later. Now, the entire race, he has been battling an understeer. The car pushes up across the racetrack in the middle of the corner. They've made 2 major adjustments. It's getting better and better, but the car's not where it needs to be for him to make a run to win here at the end of the day. Now, right behind him, the 2 car glued to his rear deck, that is Thomas Scheckter, who won here as a rookie driver from the pole, driving for Eddie Cheever back in 2002. Scheckter is driving like a man possessed. He qualified or finished 3rd overall a week ago, the first ever top 5 finish for Vision Racing. Scheckter right now trying to hang on to that spot. And right behind Scheckter is his teammate Ed Carpenter, who had his very best qualifying start ever. He started 4th this afternoon and has been running awfully well, trying to run in tandem with his teammate, but Jamie Little, he's getting passed right now for position by Marco Andretti.
That's right, Marco Andretti started dead last today, 19th, the worst start of his IndyCar Series career. He said, we are just slow, and guys, it's amazing. He keeps coming on the radio saying, I don't understand, we're just slow, I can't pass anybody. Well, if you look at the speeds and what he's doing on the track right now, passing for position, he's currently 6th. His car looks to be pretty quick. Remember, 19 years old, his first time racing here at Michigan. He's learning as he goes, and he's doing a phenomenal job. Now, Buddy Rice is 2 cars behind him, behind Ed Carpenter. Buddy has had a less than stellar year. Bad luck after bad luck, and today he started 10th. Right now he's running 8th, and he's not saying a whole lot on the radio. He's running slow and steady, guys. Actually pretty quick in his eyes. Jack?
Well, Jamie, there was just an interesting conversation between this man, John Barnes, and Roger Penske. John, you ran all the way down to Roger and asked what?
I want to see what the weather was down there.
Oh, yeah, you talked to Tim Cindric and you want to get both cars running nose to tail?
I just said we don't want to run too wide. We got too big of a gap between us and 3rd.
So there you see, even though they're not teammates, they're willing to do it.
All right, so obviously a little strategy here. They're basically saying, hey, if we team up, guys, we can pull away from the field, gives ourselves a better chance. We'll duke it out later.
Well, I think it's a great idea. I think if they can run bumper to bumper, first of all, Elio can save some fuel staying behind. That's for sure. He can dial that baby back and gain some mileage. But I think Barnes was concerned, hey, we got 2 great cars. Let's not be racing each other so hard. Now, what they're doing right there, that looks good to me. He can gain some ground right there, Scott.
Saving fuel. Remember, we talked about one of the keys of the race of drafting, and a very smart move by John Barnes to go down there and speak with the group at Penske and say, you know something, let's just run nose to tail, because if it stays green, these guys build a gap, Rusty. That's exactly what they want, especially when they come in for a pit stop. They want to give themselves some easement time to be able to go in there and do work just very cautiously.
Let's go back and take a look at the conversation. There's Cindric and Barnes. All right, did they make the deal?
Yeah, that's a deal. That's a sign where they say, let's get in the draft, let's go. That's what Cindric was saying. Cindric was saying, okay, I'm cool with that, let's go.
Well, they are still in lockstep. This is the way the race started, but it was Sam Hornish in front of Elio Castroneves. Hornish is out of this race, listed in 19th place. Can his teammate get around at the end to win? Well, come on back, see if the strategy unfolds. Back here at Michigan International Speedway, if you are just joining us, this has been a very eventful race. Dan Weldon got off to a quick start, went all the way from 9th, just jumped up into contention in the top 4 and actually moved up even further than that. Marco's been moving up from dead last. Right now he is in 7th place as we speak. He's actually been in the top 5 as well. Danica Patrick, she's in the top 10, running 10th right now. But not so good for Scott Dixon. He ran it out of fuel early. He is listed 17th right now, 2 laps down, but it's even worse for the points leader. Sam Hornish Jr. is out of the race, listed in 19th place, and could surrender the points lead depending on how things shake out. On board with Marco Andretti. Let's sit back and give you a ride as he has got his teammate Tony Kanaan right in front of him.
As we run through here, just watch the glare from the sun start to come up for these drivers right there in turns 3 and 4. Marco not letting off the gas whatsoever. There's the Firestone telemetry, 100% throttle. Now going beside his teammate, Tony Kanaan. You know, Marco said this morning when I spoke to him, I don't know what my car is doing. It's just not very competitive here. I'm flat all the way around. Except for in qualifying, I had to lift because the back end was so nervous.
Got a lot of shifting going on. Marco Andretti shifting very, very much. And I'll tell you what, it's working for him. He's staying up with his teammates. He took a car that was almost the slowest car in the field. You see he's in 6th gear right now. Shortly here he'll be downshifting as he comes off the corner to get that speed back up. But operating at 10,300 RPMs as close as they can get it to.
As we saw that glare again, I think he does that, Rusty, because he's now down to 5th, goes back up to 6th down the front stretch, over that bump right there. And the car takes a little bit of a hop, but I think because the car's scrubbing off speed in the turn, he's got to get back up in the power band. And there's we're right along with Tony Kanaan. Let's see how smooth his steering wheel is compared to what Marco was doing.
Yeah, I want to see if he's shifting as much as Marco.
They touch.
They're supposed to be teammates here.
They're race drivers, Marty. They're not teammates. Sometimes go away from it, Rusty, as we talk about all the time.
Well, they forget that that's their teammate. They just think that's another competitor up there. And you saw Marco earlier. We might not have caught that. He was shaking his fist at somebody back there. But I'm really surprised about how much shifting he's doing. Now, I guess that thing, that's what I'm concerned about. He says he's got a slow car, and he's using everything he can out of that engine to keep that thing revved up off the corner.
Right now, Marco shown in 6th. There is Ed Carpenter on the high side. That is for position. So here at Michigan International Speedway, this is getting just as interesting as it's been all afternoon and early evening. That battle right there that you saw, Carpenter, Andretti, and the lap vehicle of Scott Dixon. Those guys duking it out. Meanwhile up front, Vitor Mira still leads Elio Castroneves. Rounding out the top 5, it's Dan Weldon, Thomas Scheckter, and Tony Kanaan. So the battle continues right now, and boy, look at Marco Andretti.
Well, Marco's running great. He's got a fast car right now. For a guy that started in the back, he's doing pretty doggone good. He's been complaining all day long about how slow his car is, Scott. You know, moving back up front, we were listening, Jack Root was giving us a good report about Elio Castroneves is pleading with Vitor Mira. He wants to get up and lead some, but I don't know why he has to do that. If he gets behind him and saves that fuel, I think that's more precious.
You know, you get a few points for actually leading the most laps, but if you can get the points more so for actually winning the event, you gain 10 points over being second, and that's sort of what you need to think about, especially when you're taking advantage of your teammate and other people that have had problems in the points championship.
So right now, Vitor Mira continues to lead. He's led only 3 laps total before today, 2 at Japan, 1 at Nashville. Right now, he's led 61, and he's in front here in Michigan. Back here at the Firestone Indy 400, there's your top 5. Vitor Mira and Elio Castroneves running 1-2 in lockstep. And 6 seconds behind is Dan Weldon, Thomas Scheckter, and Tony Kanaan. Jackaroo?
Let's talk a little bit more about Elio Castroneves, who continues to follow the leader, Vitor Mira, as we ride along board there for a moment on Tony Kanaan. Vitor Mira working the race traffic. What Elio Castroneves is trying to do, fellas, is trying to find the most comfortable place for his race car. It doesn't seem to be very comfortable tucked in behind Vitor Mira. So now Tim Cindric has suggested that he back off about 7 or 8 car lengths and see if it's a little more comfortable there. It's kind of like when you're flying in a jet and the pilot gets into some turbulence and he requests a lower altitude. Except in this case, they just asked for more distance.
Well, he did get that distance. I mean, he has backed off.
Well, I was watching that, and actually, I think what ended up happening, Rusty, was that even when he got behind the 25 car of Marty Roth going through turns 1 and 2, it didn't look like Castroneves could keep his car on the low side, so it looks like his car is actually turning to an understeer.
Well, you're right. It looks like he's losing that front end. He keeps sliding up the racetrack, and I was wondering why he kept running that lap every single time high like that.
Meanwhile, this gaggle of about 6 cars has Marco Andretti right there in 6th place. as he is trying to track down Tony Kanaan. Now, he's a good Italian. Watch the hand signal.
Tony moves up on him. He's going, hey.
It's me.
It looked like, hey, it's me. Get behind me, didn't it? You know, I tell you guys, another guy running real good is Ed Carpenter. Dr. Punch, that's probably the best run that I've seen Carpenter make lately. Is he saying anything down there about his run?
You know, Rusty, neither Carpenter nor Schechter have complained at all today. And there's a look at Ed Carpenter, left side of your screen, the 20 car. We mentioned it's his best ever qualifying effort. He started 4th. It's the best run he's ever had. His best finish ever was 6th, ironically, at Watkins Glen on a road course. And he grew up racing on ovals. They have not complained. They're about 7 or 8 laps away from their next pit stop. He and Schechter have been pitting together. They want to work together, but Schechter's car is working a little bit better in traffic than Carpenter. But both these guys having a very good day for Vision Racing.
Well, right now they've been able to hook up.
You know, I guess I'd have to ask the same question to Jamie Little about Tony Kanaan. Him and Marco have been bumper to bumper every lap. What's he saying down there, Jamie?
They're not saying a whole lot of everything. I know both are very happy with their cars, and as I reported earlier, there they are side by side. That's the 26 and Marco Andretti on the outside, but remember, he's the son of the owner of Tony Kanaan's 7-Eleven car, so you can imagine some of the politics going on. But Tony Kanaan tested here just a couple weeks ago. He got the right setup he felt was the best. The rest of the team went with that same setup, including Marco Andretti. He had never raced here before. He knows Tony Kanaan is a proven winner, and he could run his setup. So they made a couple tweaks, and obviously, Rusty, it's working out for him.
I've got a question for both of you guys. Notice Marco is not staying tucked underneath. Is it because the car is not able to stay down low like Tony's? Or maybe they just don't want to stay in lockstep? I mean, wouldn't it be easier for him to run in formation?
Well, if you watch his steering wheel, he moves his hands a lot going through the turn. The car, I think, is very nervous for him. I think it's more so on the back. I think the car is what they call oversteer. The back end wants to come around. So anytime he gets behind a group of cars in front of him, gets that turbulent air coming off all those cars that are directly giving that to him from in front, I think what ends up happening is that he just has to sort of fight the car a little bit. Now, as the tires continue to wear, that might get a little worse for him as the fuel load lightens up also. And it looks like he starts to run a little bit better after a pit stop. We'll have to watch after the next one to see if they can improve the car for him.
Well, we have pit stops coming. The third round. Don't go anywhere. We're working lap 128 of 200 here in Michigan. Vitor Mira and Helio Castroneves have checked out.
Hey, guys.
Back here at Michigan International Speedway, there is your current top 5. Vitor Mira and Helio Castroneves with a 6.5-second lead over Dan Weldon, Thomas Schechter, and Tony Kanaan. But the next round of pit stops are coming, and the word we're hearing is that Vitor Mira may be dipping below the line this time by. He stays out. It's going to be Helio Castroneves that comes in. So Mira loses his shadow, and coming your way, Jackaroot, is second place.
And it's a bit of a surprise because Vitor Mira was supposed to pit that lap. Obviously, he decided to squeeze it one more time, but Helio Castroneves comes to the service of Rick Reineman and company down there on pit road. They go to work exchanging the tires. It's, as we call it, a nominal stop, just 30 gallons of methanol and ethanol to mix, and he is off and away. Now what remains to be seen is how quick will Vitor Mira's pit stop be. Remember, here at speeds that we have at Michigan, it's 120 yards a second. He's being vectored in by John Barr. This is the longest drive the driver has to endure at 60 miles an hour. As he hits his box, he resets the fuel, and his Panther team will go to work. They anticipate no changes, just 30 gallons of fuel. Their third stop. And as he begins to rev up the engine, he lights it up.
Guys, Marco Andretti came in full fuel, 4 tires, no changes. I just asked Kyle Moyle, his race strategist. He said Marco is asking for help from anybody that will listen. And Tony Kanaan said, I'm not having it. I don't run well behind other cars.
Well, now we add our answer to that question. Why they weren't running in lockstep? Because Tony doesn't run well behind Marco, and Marco is not able to stay down. Here comes Ed Carpenter, Jerry.
Let's reset fuel.
Carpenter comes in. You hear him say about resetting the fuel. They want to make sure everything on board is okay. They will make one more stop with about 30 laps to go. Ed Carpenter having a great run today to get it full of fuel. He is down and away. And this time now his teammate Thomas Scheckter will be coming down pit road to pit, as will Dan Weldon. They'll be making their next to last pit stop. As you see these cars now making their way on the pit road, 60 miles an hour. Here is Tony Kanaan headed toward Jamie Little.
Well, Tony Kanaan, number 11, has been flawless on his pit stops today. He hasn't run outside the top 4. His team is getting the job done. They are doing it. 4 tires, 4 fuel, and he's out. 9.1 seconds, guys.
So right now, Dan Weldon and Thomas Scheckter are running 1-2. Brian Herta in third, but we are getting word that, yep, here comes Dan Weldon as Tony Kanaan goes out. So Weldon comes back in, and Jerry Punch, they're both coming your way.
All right, Marty, first and second place drivers coming down pit road. Dan Weldon said, I got a very loose race car. Take all that wing out that you guys put in the first 2 stops. It's loose, I can hardly drive it. Now watching Weldon in the foreground. That is Scheckter in the background. Cruz now trying to put 4 fresh Firestones on. Weldon wants to get out in less than 9 seconds. Their car down to 9.6. Great pit stop for both these teams. And they will exit. They will both have to make one more pit stop. Scheckter in for 11.3 seconds.
Interesting that the car was getting loose as the track is getting cooler. Let's talk a little bit more about that later, because here comes Brian Herta as he makes his way. He had taken over the race lead. Last year's winner is coming your way, Jamie.
Brian Herta won this race 1 year ago from the pole. He was actually born and raised right outside of Detroit, about 30 miles from where we are. You see him come in. He's escaped 1 penalty today, guys, so you'd say he has some luck coming to him. He came in the first position, and he's out in 9.9 seconds.
And what it means is that now cycling through and taking over the race lead is Helio Castroneves. So by not pitting side by side on the same lap, Castroneves is the beneficiary. Team Penske does a little bit better job, and Helio did a little bit better job perhaps on the in lap and the out lap, and he has the lead by 2.4 seconds over Vitor Meira. We've got to take another break. Stay with us. We've still got a lot of great racing still to come. In 2 weeks, the Indycar Series returns to ABC TV. Join us for the Kentucky Indy 300 Sunday, August 13th. Coverage begins at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific on ABC TV. You're looking at the race leader. That is Helio Castroneves. He has got a 2.4 second lead over Vitor Meira, as Team Penske did a better job on this last round of pit stops. There is the bright orange revived machine of Vitor.
I just started to say, everybody's having fast pit stops today. I don't see that big a difference between Castroneves and Meira. They got a pretty big distance in them right now. I was looking at the fuel burn too, guys. Dan Weldon ran farther than anybody. Those guys hit pit road about 129, Meira and Castroneves. And Weldon, he didn't hit pit road like 134, so he's got about 5 more laps, but I don't believe it's going to mean anything, because there's still, everybody's going to have to pit one more time.
Take a look. If the race ends right now, we have a new points leader. Helio Castroneves would bump Sam Hornish to second by 8. Dan Weldon would move up to third. And again, it would still be a 32-point swing between first and fourth.
Well, Scott, one of the things you look at this is really a nothing. Hornish really didn't lose anything. What he did lose is his big pad, because he's a little concerned about Sears Point, that road race that he probably won't perform on as well as some of these other guys.
Well, it could have been a lot worse when you think about the possibilities last weekend at Milwaukee. It looked like it was going wrong for him before he came back to finish second. And this weekend, no such luck. But you know something, 2 races in a row with bad luck can put you out of it. There's still a long ways to go. We talked about running for points, running for the championship, and using patience.
And a guy who is thinking about what might have been is Scott Dixon.
Yeah, Dixon's the one who's the big loser on this program right now. He's 2 laps down. I really thought he could have got a lap back. Just hasn't been able to get his car up front to challenge, because Castroneves and Meira's been running so hard. You see Scott Dixon dip a little line a little bit there for some reason, but he's just, he just came out of the pitter. He just blended up, I'm being told. He's just a sitting duck right now, guys. There's not much you can do is ride this thing out and hope somebody else breaks so he can move up in positions.
Right now, there you see Scott. He is currently in 17th position. Meanwhile, up front, Helio Castroneves, his lead is 2.4 seconds over Vitor Meira. So it's pretty much stayed the same the last few laps. Dan Weldon is third. Tony Kanaan is fourth. Ed Carpenter, with a great run today, is running in fifth. And it would be his best finish of the season if he can hold on to it.
Well, Marty, one thing I noticed about the cars, and Scott told me this earlier in the year going into Homestead, or as the Homestead race was going on, you watch these cars, they run right on the bottom of the racetrack, and they do that down the back straightaway to front straightaway. And why do they do that? It's because they can do that. And it's a shorter way around the racetrack. Unlike the NASCAR stock cars, you'll see them drift up off of turn 2, right against the wall, come back to the bottom of the track. After they burn the tires up at the bottom, they'll work up to the top of these tracks. But these Indy cars have got so doggone much downforce, Scott, they can literally run everywhere. Is that right?
And also the other fact, too, is remember, these are like a ground effects car. They're producing thousands of pounds of downforce, and they can actually drive around the bottom. Now, your car, ours are 1530, and the Cup cars are somewhere in the neighborhoods of 3,500 pounds. So, and in that area, I think what ends up happening is that isn't the momentum just takes it up the racetrack? Is it 3,500 for those guys?
It's about 3,400 pounds. And one thing that's kind of different about that is that a stock car weighs 3,400 pounds. An Indy car makes 3,400 pounds of downforce
right.
at this racetrack.
I'll take what I have, and you can have yours, okay?
I hear you.
Let me throw something out, because this is really strange to me. Normally, we see one or two guys clicking off the fastest race laps in the top 10. We have 8 different drivers that have the 8 fastest laps of this race.
So competitive. So many people are running so strong. I think that just gives you a true indication of the parity now with all the teams having the Honda engine. And we've heard a lot of team people say that the advantage that we had last year running a Honda engine over the other manufacturers are gone. So now they're working on race strategy, fuel strategy, and setup strategy, Rusty. And that really plays into the difference that we see with a lot of these. And now the driver becomes more of an intricate part of these race car teams.
You're absolutely right. One thing I noticed about this track today, guys, this track's become the great equalizer. I see people running good today that generally don't run well, Marty. And I've been watching the speeds also. 3380 to 3350. They've been running the same speed every single lap, anywhere from 213 to 215. The tires haven't fell off. Firestone's done a fabulous job bringing a great tire here today at Michigan. A really good job on their part. Drivers look like they got a lot of grip. The speeds haven't fallen off at all.
It has been a great race, and we still have, well, about 55 laps to go. Stay with us. We're coming back to Michigan International Speedway in the 2-mile oval, where we are flying. Back here at Michigan International Speedway, you're looking at the 5 that are up front. Elio Castroneves by 2.6 seconds now over Vitor Meira. Dan Weldon is in third, just a couple of ticks back. Here is the Vision Racing team. Ed Carpenter and Thomas Schechter, they're running 5th and 6th. And you got a glimpse of Scott Sharp, who's in 7th right behind them.
A really great job that he had of Vision Racing. These guys have not made any mistakes. They got great handling cars. This is one of the best performances I've seen all year long out of this organization, and they got to be proud of what they're doing. They're working together too good, Scott. I mean, they must be talking to each other, the crew chiefs, because they've been kind of guarding each other, and they haven't lost their wingman, so to speak.
And that's important. We talked about it as one of the keys to the race, about being able to utilize your teammate for this side of situation. It wasn't working at the Andretti Green Camp we just saw a little while ago, because Tony Kanaan wanted nothing to do with Marco Andretti sort of running back and forth with each other. Sort of left the young 19-year-old rookie out to fend for himself.
Well, he kind of sure did. And Marco, there's a lot of hand gestures going on right there. He was probably a little frustrated and confused too. It's kind of like, hey, give me a break. That's what the hand signal looked like to me. I don't think he was mad about anything. He was a little confused.
So the battle continues, and there is young Marco Andretti all alone on the racetrack. He's running 8th right now, chasing Scott Sharp and ahead of his teammate Dario Franchitti. Not heard a lot out of Franchitti this week like we did last week. He was running from all the way up from 12th to 1st last week, but right now he's in 9th. So at Michigan International Speedway, the race leader is Elio Castroneves. Vitor Meira is now in 2nd place, 2.9 seconds behind. Dan Weldon is 3rd. Tony Kanaan and Ed Carpenter wrap out the top 5. And right now, Castroneves has led 9 of the last 11 races this season. The only 2 he didn't lead, Kansas and Nashville, and he continues to motor on here. So, guys, as Castroneves continues to stretch this margin. All of a sudden, he's got 3 seconds. Maybe that's why he really didn't want to go with those team orders from Tim Cindric about saving fuel, because he's actually pulling away.
Well, you wonder where the advantage came during that last pit stop. Maybe he got on the in-lap a little quicker than the 4-car Vitor Mira, and maybe his pit stop, I think, was about a second quicker overall, and then maybe he got his outlap and getting up to speed a little quicker than Vitor did. Maybe that's where the gains were, because right now they've been sitting about just over 2 seconds, 2.5, sometimes almost 3 seconds between Vitor and actually the car he's chasing, the number 3 of Helio Castroneves. And if it doesn't go back to a yellow situation, this could be harmful for Vitor, because it doesn't seem like he can make a dent on the 3-car of Helio Castroneves.
Well, one thing I'm noticing right now, too, these guys are going to have to pit one more time, but they're only going to have to take on partial fuel. They're going to need about 20 laps of fuel, and that's where the race can be won or lost on pit road. That's where Vitor could probably make up some ground on Castroneves. The guys, Tim Cindric-led team really put it on him on that last pit stop, and that's how they got away from Vitor.
Let's get more from Jack.
Yeah, you actually hit the nail right on the head, Rusty. Remember back to those 2 pit stops. I called Helio Castroneves' stop a nominal stop. As soon as the fuel load was full, that car lit up the tires and boogied on out onto the racetrack. Now let's go to Vitor Mira. Do you remember there was a momentary pause when you heard the engine rev and they didn't have the fuel in completely? Well, that was about a second and a half. Remember also, I told you, it's about a football field a second. Look at the difference out on the racetrack right now.
Good point, Jack, as it is now a 3.3 second margin between Castroneves and Mira, and then it is another 6 seconds back to Dan Weldon in 3rd place. So what was once a lot of nose to tail, as we get down inside the last 50 laps, we're starting to see a few guys starting to stretch it out.
Well, Tony Kanaan is running Weldon down right now. That looks like the best race going on right now. He's been catching them, and I expect him to really dice with him here shortly. I tell you, it looks like Kanaan is working the bottom of the racetrack, and as you saw him just shift there, get that Honda engine back up to 10,300 RPM, where it performs the best.
So is Dixon going to help here, his teammate?
Well, you know, he certainly can, just by sort of sitting back and using a different line all the time. But there's still a lot of laps left in the race right now for him to really do that much. Remember, Dixon had that problem before, running out of fuel. He is 3 laps down. A contender in the championship, always running in the top 4 here. He is going to have to make a situation now for the 11 car, Tony Kanaan, to get by him very difficult. He leaves a bit of an opening now. What's going to happen? As we roll along there with the number 10 of Danny Weldon, you heard him get off the gas, and he's running in clean air by himself. I still think his car is not working the way he wants it.
You know, I see one thing unfolding right now. The 10 car ran farther on fuel, Dan Weldon I'm talking about. And now, if he's going to be able to short pit this car on fuel, that's where he's going to make some ground up. He's not going to need as much as everybody else, because he's been able to go farther.
Well, we've only had 2 yellows today, folks. The race average is now up over 190 miles an hour. The record's 182, and as of now, this is the 3rd fastest race in IndyCar Racing League history. Helio Castroneves is at the lead of this fast one. Stay with us. Back here at Michigan International Speedway, let's get you caught up if you are just tuning in as the sun continues to set in the west. For Sam Hornish Jr., it has been a dismal day. He is dead last after dropping out of this race a long, long time ago. And right now, if Helio Castroneves stays up front, he could take over the points lead from his Penske Racing teammate. Also for Vitor Mira, I hate to say this, but he's running 2nd again. He's still looking for win number 1. How about Dan Weldon? Boy, he has moved up from the get-go. He's now running a very steady 3rd, but he too trying to track down the leaders. And Vision Racing, right now, Ed Carpenter in 5th and his teammate Thomas Schechter in 6th. The best 2-car team effort that this group has had all year long. Meanwhile, on board with Marco Andretti, he is currently shown in 8th place, trying to track down Scott Sharp. Gives you an idea, the last lap for Marco is about 5 miles an hour slower than the race leaders.
We mentioned before how he's been fighting his car. The same setup as Tony Kanaan, but the cars just don't seem to be working the same. Look how he's seesawing at that wheel right now. Remember, a 19-year-old rookie, but I'll tell you, he has done just a wonderful job throughout this year, Rusty. A guy that I wondered if he'd be able to withstand the pressure. I've said this many times before, but he just keeps answering the call.
I'll tell you what, if he doesn't slow down, he's going to break that shifter knob off. He pulled it back in 6th gear, went right back to 5th gear like that was a mistake, you know.
And as you take a look at Kosuke Matsuura, there's a reason we're showing you Kosuke. He's right in the middle of that 3-car freight train. He's got our Capital One, no hassle, fastest lap. He has 216.3 miles an hour. That would have put him 3rd on the grid in qualifying. And boy, he and Danica, we hear, almost got together just a few moments ago. That's Jeff Simmons also in that 3-car deal. Let's take a look.
Danica's on the lower part of your screen. The 55 of Kosuke Matsuura is at the top. He starts to come down, doesn't realize that she is still there. A bad move by Kosuke. Now, he was involved in an accident last year, not to his own liking, but he ended up being taken out last year in an accident with Townsend Bell that ended up taking out about 4 cars in turn 2.
Let's get more from Jack Arute.
Well, Scott, while you're talking about Danica Patrick, and we saw that replay of that move between she and Kosuke Matsuura, Danica was resoundingly scolded for playing what Ray Lito called a game of chicken with Kosuke. He told her to get in line and to save fuel. And then he ended it all with, if you listen to me, we can still win this race. The teacher scolding the pupil, Doc.
And Jack, meanwhile, Kosuke Matsuura has had his hands full most of the afternoon. You saw that fastest lap, but they were able to get the car dialed in early on new tires, but the car went away very quickly. And the problem he had was traffic. When a car would come across his nose, the front of the car would just go up across the racetrack. He could not hold it on the middle or tight line. He has had to stay in the middle or upper groove on the racetrack. He said the car has just been a nightmare in traffic.
So we've got to step aside for another commercial break, but we have still got quite a few laps to go, and we still have this one in doubt. Helio Castroneves in front of Vitor Meira and Dan Weldon. But as you can see, we've got a lot of cars still in contention for this one before it's over. One more round of stops. Back here at Michigan International Speedway, we are working 165th lap of 200, and it is Helio Castroneves in front of Vitor Meira, Dan Weldon, Tony Kanaan, and Ed Carpenter, and we're hearing about 4 laps until the last round of pit stops will begin, and Helio Castroneves may be one of the first to come in.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm doing a little calculating here. That doesn't add up to my book unless they're using a strategy first in, first out. They could be doing that. It looked to me like 20 laps to go is when everybody be hitting, but there's 2 ways they can do that. They can try to get in early and get out.
Well, it worked for him last time. He came in early first before Vitor did, and it got him out the lead. So right now he's got a sizable margin, as Meira's got a 4.4 second deficit to Castroneves. Here comes Weldon across the line. Again, he is 10 seconds behind the race leader, 6 seconds behind Vitor.
I would think the least amount of time on pit road, the least amount of fuel is going to win somebody the race, that's for sure. So it's going to come down to the old-fashioned way of tapping somebody on the back when they think there's enough fuel in this car to get the job done, Scott.
That or the light that's in the helmet that some of the teams use, but either way, it's a sort of a rudimentary way of going things when you've got all this expensive telemetry on these programs.
Sometimes that stuff doesn't work.
Well, and you certainly don't want to push it, because the man right behind that shot that you had there with Dan Weldon, that was Scott Dixon. And if you remember early in the race, Dixon ran out of fuel, and he has been 2 laps down ever since. It's Dixon on the high side on the right, Weldon in front of him. They've been pretty much in lockstep. They've tried to help Weldon here reel it in, but Weldon's really not making up the ground. And guess what? Helio Castroneves is pulling into pit lane. Jack, he's coming your way.
Helio Castroneves now at 60 miles an hour. He has the second to last pit stall. The Sam Hortons Jr. has not finished this race, so it'll be clear sailing for Castroneves. Telling Helio to watch Rick Reineman on the right front. When he gives him the signal, Helio Castroneves will light it up. There it is. And you hear it as he tries to continue to lead this race.
10.4 seconds. Remember that. Jot that down, because Vitor Meira's last stop is yet to come. Of course, Vitor takes over the race lead at this point. Dan Weldon moves up, as does Tony Kanaan. And we'll just wait to see how it all shakes out, as we've still got a lot more pit stops to go. And one mistake in the pits could cost you dearly. That's Weldon right in front of his 2-lap down teammate, Scott Dixon. Tony Kanaan right behind him.
And Dixon's doing the proper thing. He's actually probably been instructed to try and help his teammate, Danny Weldon. Certainly doing a nice job of getting it behind him, saving them both a little bit of fuel, because both cars run a little bit more efficiency as they're nose to tail, as you see right there. Not very far off. The other guy's taking advantage of that is Tony Kanaan, not far behind.
Well, remember, every lap that Weldon can stretch on the fuel means less time in the pits when he finally does make a stop.
That's right. We're sitting there watching Elio Castroneves come in. He pitted last time at like 129, where he pitted it now at about 170, about 40-some laps on the fuel. I thought he could have gone a couple earlier, but I don't think that Tim Cindric wanted to take a chance on that, running him out of fuel.
Countdown 2.
That was Weldon's radio. 2 laps until they will make their pit. Meanwhile, Vitor Meira's lead over Dan Weldon is 5.5 seconds. Tony Kanaan in third. You can see him right there. He's about 6 seconds back of the leader. Here is Meira, and yes, he is peeling off and coming in for his final pit stop. Locks up the brakes to get down to 60 miles an hour. Jack, he's coming your way.
And John Barnes is vectoring him in, as they say, as he crosses.
3, 2, 1. Come on, there.
Counting in 3, 2, 1. Now Vitor Meira has to hit the marks, reset the fuel, and try and beat 10.6 seconds. The crew has already completed the pit stop, except the fuel. And now he is off and away. What was the time, fellas?
8.9, guys. 8.9. He beat Elio Castroneves by a little over a second.
That guy's had Carpenter in, having the best run he's had in his entire career, running in the top 5 all afternoon. They really get off a pit road in less than 10, and it's taken them extra time. They have stalled the car. They're trying to get it refired, and the car will not fire. They ran him right on the very edge of the fuel. 17.6 seconds for Ed Carpenter.
And we'll see how much it costs him out on the racetrack. As you can see, Simmons was in. Danica Patrick's made her last stop. And meanwhile, there's Dan Weldon. Looks like he's peeling off, and here he comes.
Okay, Dan, wide open down here. Straight in.
Tony Kanaan right there. Jamie Little, you're up first.
Well, guys, 1 week ago in Milwaukee, it was the closing laps that Tony Kanaan turned up the wick and took home the win. He's coming in for his final pit stop of the race. 4 tires, full fuel, not expected to make any changes. They said keep it going, stay steady, and bring it home.
Dan Weldon in, remember, he had to beat a 10.4 Weldon, and he and Kanaan race down pit road. As Weldon's car slips a little bit, Kanaan will beat him off as they will head back. Remember, both those teams beat that 10.4 second stop, and Elio Castroneves pulled off about 10 laps to go.
Well, Weldon took it right back from him right at pit exit, and he gets out in front of Kanaan. So Thomas Scheckter is now shown as your race leader. He has not yet made his final pit stop. Behind him, it looks like it will be Castroneves, Meira, and Weldon in that order.
Marty, when it checks out, Castroneves still had a good pit stop, and Meira couldn't make up any ground that last pit stop. A little bit faster for Meira, we saw here, but still, Castroneves has got a pretty good lead on him.
Well, the pit crew was quicker, so that means the in-lap and the out-lap was better for Elio Castroneves.
All the way down.
All right, here comes Scheckter.
Keep coming.
And he's coming your way, Doc.
25-year-old second-generation driver from South Africa. His dad, the 79 Formula One world champion, Jody Scheckter. You hear Larry Curry calling his driver in. They're running it out in 7.5 seconds or less. 4 fresh Firestones. Thomas, who won here as a rookie, his very first victory. He won a year ago in Texas, down and away in 8.1 seconds.
So that's the last pit stop of the cycle. And there is the race leader, Elio Castroneves. He has got the lead over Vitor Meira, Dan Weldon, Tony Kanaan, and Thomas Scheckter shown right now in 5th position. So we're going to step aside just for a moment as the laps begin to wind down. Can Elio Castroneves take the win and the points lead in the process? Come on back and find out. Back here at Michigan International Speedway, there is your top 5. It is Elio Castroneves by 3.6 seconds over Vitor Mira. And you see the rest of the top 5. There is Elio. And now's that stretch where he's just going to put the hammer down. And Buddy Rice, who is a lap down, in that mix as well. And boy, look at this traffic.
Yeah, this is what Elio wants. He gets locked up in his track, but Vitor can run him down, that's for sure. There's a lot of traffic up in front of him. He's not good. He has to negotiate. These guys are racing for each other. You got to remember that. They don't care about Elio. They care about themselves right now.
Yeah, some of these are for position. For example, Andretti and Franchitti, that is for 9th and 10th on the racetrack. On board with Marco. That's Elio way to the left. He's way high.
You hear that? He is the leader. I don't know if that was that. He's the leader. Get back in front of him or give him some respect. It's hard to tell.
Well, he's gotten past Franchitti. Marco is his next target. Meanwhile, where is Vitor Mira? Has he been able to close in on this? Don't see him right there. There he is. So he is 3.5 seconds behind the race leader, and he's still going to have to negotiate all that traffic.
He's going to have to, that's for sure. Now, but the only chance he's got there is use that draft to get some more speed to get up on him.
That's what he needs to do. 213.9 miles an hour that last lap for Mira, and Elio was 213.1. So Mira's just hoping for a couple more laps for Castroneves to get through some of that traffic, and he hopes by the time he reaches it, it is all strung out so he can get through it a little quicker.
Well, let's watch what happens as Vitor comes past the start-finish line. Where is Dan? He has just crossed the line as he's got Tony Kanaan all over him. Those two fighting it out for 3rd position. They are 8.2 seconds behind the race lead.
Well, I'll tell you what this thing's shaping up to be right now. This has got to be one of the tightest points battles I've seen in the history of this sport. I mean, when Sam Hornish can drop out and be only with 1 point, he's still second at this point, I believe, but he has lost his big pad like we talked about. I'll take a look at this, guys. Scott, look at this thing. +2, -1, +1, -2. That's nothing, guys.
The whole thing is the points difference there, 376 and 31 down to Dixon in 4th. Remember, 50 points to win an event. So it's a lot more racing to go with 3 races left after today. You cannot afford any mistakes.
But I can't believe it. They've only been moving around 1 and 2 positions with all the problems they've been having.
Interesting to note right now, because Dixon was just in the pit lane and got some fuel. He's the car on the right-hand side of your screen looking backwards there. He's trying to stay in front of Kanaan. Doesn't get the job done. You're riding on board right now with Weldon. Weldon sure wanted to have Dixon behind him versus Tony Kanaan. So now, obviously, it's not for a position with Dixon because he ran out of fuel. He's down a few laps, but his job from Team Motors, I'm sure will be Rusty, is to get ahead of that white and green car so he can actually play a little bit of blocking role for the 10 of Weldon.
Yeah, blocking. It's not allowed in this sport, is it?
As long as you do it without anybody noticing.
I was wondering where you're going with that story.
2 cars are harder to get around than 1. Let's put it that way. Meanwhile, if this battle continues, and there goes Dixon. He's going to try the high side. Tony's got to feel like he's being ganged up on right now.
That's aggravating for Tony Kanaan to know that Dixon's 2 laps down. He knows what he's doing. He's up there just messing with him so he can help his team out.
Well, we talked about one of the keys to the right teammate cooperation, and that's a little bit of what you're trying to see right there, and he gets it pulled off.
And there it is. You go on board with Dan Weldon, and Dixon does his job. He gets back in to help out Dan Weldon, but now all of a sudden he's going outside of it.
Now, tell me about that. What's that all about?
Still outside.
I don't understand that one.
Well, if he's faster, maybe he wants to tow Weldon along, but remember Milwaukee when Weldon was behind and Team Motors said just run behind the 9 car, and he said get Chip on the horn for me because I don't run behind anybody.
I think he's mad. I think he just wants to pass him by. You know, running 2 laps down because you run him out of fuel. He's probably still frustrated.
Guys, while we've been watching this, I've been watching the clock. Castroneves' lead over Vitor Mira has gone from 3.5 down to 2 seconds in the last 3 laps. So it's starting to heat up again back at the front of this racetrack.
And Mira just ran a 2:15.5, and Castroneves ran a 2:13 flat. So right now, Mira is starting to get an advantage of those cars in front and getting a bit of a draft.
Yeah, I think Chip just went over to settle the discussion. Listen, Weldon's got the points championship right here and the chance.
He's going to say, what are you doing here? Mike Hall, who's running that team, use your head, guys.
Meanwhile, the lead is down to 1.4 seconds. So right now, Vitor Mir is chewing up real estate, and he's not asking for resale value. He's keeping it.
Well, he is, but the problem is right now, Vitor's got up to the guys. He's running a little bit faster, but now Elio's cleared all the traffic. He's clear sailing, and Vitor's got to get himself through all that gaggle of cars in front of him right now.
Jack, you've got more on Vitor?
Yeah, Marty, the team is trying to talk Vitor and work the spotters to work their way through this. Now, remember, with spotters, you're able to try and cut some deals. But Vitor Mira has a new nickname. His spotter just called him Big Dog and said, time for the big dog to hunt. Vitor didn't respond.
He's too busy. Whoa! That is touching wheels with the 17 of Jeff Simmons. Can't do that at these speeds.
Well, they didn't mean to do that either. I don't know whose fault that one was, but they got awful close. When you tag a right front to a left rear, that can definitely spell disaster, Scott.
Well, you know, I'm watching Vitor. He is getting through traffic maybe a little easier than what Elio Castroneves did. And I remember to Jack Arute reporting earlier on that before the race, John Parnes decided to put a little bit more downforce on the number 4 Panther car because of the weather conditions. And maybe it's working great in the traffic right now, but we saw the two cars when they were strung out that Vitor just could not run the same speeds that Elio did. So maybe Elio's got a little bit less downforce, a little bit less wing angle, Rusty, than Vitor does. And maybe in clear traffic, it might be difficult for Vitor to catch up.
Doesn't it still amaze you, though, how well Vitor, with a single car team, with limited resources, limited engineers, can run just as fast as the top teams?
10 laps to go. Vitor has about 3 more of these cars to fight his way through. There's Elio. He is back out into clean air, and his lead right now is about 1.8 seconds. And there is Vitor. The one advantage for Vitor is he's glued to the bottom of the racetrack.
He is able to run there. We saw that before, and that was the great thing, that when he was leading, he had to make Castroneves go around the high side, which Elio could not do. But right now, Elio is way off in front. Remember back to Milwaukee, both Andretti Green Racing and Penske were tied with 21 wins apiece in the series, and then they went on with Andretti Green to lead with Kanaan winning and then getting the 21st or 22nd win. So if the win comes today with Penske, that will make his 22nd win, so there'll be a tie back in the series again, Rusty.
That is amazing, the statistics that are in the sport, what these guys have been doing. Scott, I got a question to ask you. Unlike stock car racing, when we're at Talladega and Daytona, we pull up behind the guy, both cars are asked to pick up speed and run much, much faster. I haven't noticed that. Every time these guys get bumper to bumper, it's like they might pick up a little bit, but not a whole lot.
Not like you guys have in your cars, and I saw that when I did the IROC series. I could not believe what a big hole the car in front would punch in the air for you. In these series here, yes, you do gain a little bit more when you run nose to tail. You certainly start to gain a little bit better fuel mileage, but nothing like the cars that you guys drive.
Meanwhile, there is Elio Castroneves. He has gotten around Jeff Bucknam. And take a look at Elio. First 6 races, he led 290 laps. Last 4, just 69. And all his wins came in those first 6 races. So it's been a bit of a drought, and he's about 6.5 laps away from breaking it. There is Vitor Mira. He's gotten through that gaggle of cars.
6 or 7 to go.
The lead is 2 seconds.
Second again. It's not over yet. The poor fella's second all the time. It's amazing. Reminds me of Harry Gant back in the old days. He just had second place all the time in every race.
This is his 56th race right now, and if he ends up with a second place, he's probably going to talk to himself all the way home tonight.
Well, Avis Rent-A-Car ought to sponsor him. I mean, they were always trying harder, you know.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that's a good one, Marty. That looked good in that car.
He picked up 0.2 of a second that last lap, 1.8, but there's only 5.5 laps to go. Vitor Mira trying desperately to pick up his first win. On the other side of the coin, Elio Castroneves looking for career win number 11.
You ever notice, Scott, when there's ever a big rain delay, it's like the drivers don't ever bring out cautions. It seems like the race runs caution-free. Well, we had 2 of them today. That's about it.
We've had 2. And this is a race that is going to be like the 3rd fastest in IndyCar Series history.
But the guy that's actually waiting for a caution right now is Vitor Mira. That's the only thing that's going to help him, I think, right now.
He wouldn't mind that. There's 3 or 4 behind him wouldn't mind it either.
Yeah, this time by 4 laps to go. The margin was 1.8 the last time. It is now 1.6. So he's picking up about 0.2 of a second a lap. That's not enough. There's not enough laps left.
Still amazing me. Knocking out anywhere between 214, 216 mile-an-hour laps every single lap. These cars have not slowed down at all.
That's Bucknam that he's getting around. Jeff is running in 15th. Of course, a lot of memories for Bucknam. His father, Ronnie, won the very first race ever run here at Michigan International Speedway back in 1968. He won't win today, but at least he's going to finish.
No doubt disappointment with Vitor Mira if he does come home on second, which looks like it's going to happen, but he has to look at it and say, you know, we are in 5th in points right now, probably no chance of catching the guys in the top 4 between the Penske and the Ganassi cars, but a lot better than last weekend, Marty, when he ended up having something break in the car and put him into the wall at Milwaukee.
There is Elio. There is Vitor. The laps winding down. The gap between first and second this time by, as there will be 2 laps to go. The margin 1.6 seconds. Unless Elio has some kind of difficulty. And we're hearing that Danica Patrick has slowed on the racetrack. Will it bring out a caution? If it does, this race would pretty much be over.
They just said get her to the bottom of the racetrack so they won't bring out a caution. So she's trying to pull down all she possibly can, if you just heard.
White flag this time by. 1 to go. You heard it on the radio. And the margin this time at the stripe. Again, 1.6 seconds. So it looks like Elio Castroneves, all he has to do is negotiate this 2-mile circuit at famed Michigan International Speedway to pick up his 11th career win.
And will he climb the fence?
I'll guarantee he'll climb the fence, Scott. He'll definitely climb that fence. He wants this win bad, that's for sure. He talked about it all week.
Get ready, folks. Here he comes, his 4th win of the season. He's already got the hand up in the air. He ought to have the #1 finger because he's your new points leader.
Good job, buddy. Look, you guys are awesome. Awesome. Thank you, God. Woo, if they let me race, I can win this thing, I'm telling you.
His first win at Michigan, the first for Team Penske in the Indy Racing. And look at Danica, she is just furious.
Stomping her feet.
Let's go to Jack Arute.
Roger, after all these years, when a car of yours streaks across victory line, you still pump your fist.
Well, I'll tell you, that's a big day for us because we started off not in very good shape with Sam. We had some water pressure and high water and oil temperature early on, and that's why we brought him in. Didn't want to take a chance, and then at the end brought him in so we didn't have an accident. But Elio drove a great race, great pit stops. I think it was good strategy. Mira had a good car today, but this championship's getting tighter and tighter, and we'll see Elio climb that fence now, I'm sure.
All right, guys, we're standing by. Let's go back to you.
Roger's 3rd win at MIS at 400 miles or longer. The other 2, Danny Sullivan in 88, Rick Mears in 91. Stay with us. We're coming right back. Spider-Man does his thing. Elio Castroneves with his 11th career win and 4th of the season. And you're looking at the new points leader, but this championship battle is not yet over, guys.
It's not over at all. The original Spider-Man, the one that got her done. Ooh, she's cussing. What is wrong? Danica Patrick's very upset. Very upset. I've never seen her this upset.
She's listed unofficially in 17th position. And while she is frustrated and furious, that man who was frustrated and furious last week is just ecstatic.
Do you know what, Marty? She really, really wants to do the best job she possibly can.
Here she is on the onboard just when she came to a stop.
I've never seen her that frustrated. She's a great competitor, one of the best women drivers I've ever seen. But boy, that looks like Elio last week. That much frustration, Scott.
It's amazing because, Rusty, you've lived it before. When you're so competitive, you want to get out there and you want to do well.
Hey
a
guys,
lot of pressure on this young lady. So she is certainly going to be winning some races here very soon.
Well, there she is with Brent Maurer. He's public relations for the team. And, yeah, he probably should take it from her before she wants to heave it somewhere.
Yeah, a PR guy around your driver. That's who you need. Please think. Please calm down. Let's get back to Elio Castroneves. What about that? You know, he wins the race. You know, he knows he's going to Sears Point, a place that's so good for him, a road course. He's got to be feeling pretty good now, Scott.
Well, I think the most important thing when he says, I can win it, he wants to win the championship. That is his goal. Remember, Penske has never won the IRL championship, and that is their goal this year after winning the Indianapolis 500 so many times.
And now they're waiting for Elio to get back into the car so they can get him around to...
Don't break her foot. She's got a couple more races there.
Just drop kick one of the markers.
We got to find out what's going on here. Why is she so frustrated?
Well, you remember at the very beginning of the race, she said she wanted to go out and win one for the team, but I mean, this late in the race, she wasn't a factor to win anyway.
She doesn't have to prove anything to anybody. She's a great driver. I mean, she's just very frustrated. I feel for her right now.
She was 8th at the time when she had fallen out. Meanwhile, there's Elio. He's got to get a tow because they don't have a starter out there in the front stretch. So we're going to take another break. We'll get a chance to get you all caught up with the winner and maybe get a word with Danica.
Welcome back to Michigan International Speedway. Joined by Vitor Meira, came in second once again. Vitor, you had only led 3 laps up to this race, and then you dominated and led so many laps today working with Elio Castroneves. What did the team tell you about working with Elio, a man who's won so many times already this year?
I mean, not only working with Elio, but working with anybody that was up to speed. I mean, and I think we were the 2 fastest car there, and the revived Panther Racing is... I mean, we did 110% today, and that's what came out of it. That's what we came out with.
Guys?
Thanks, Jamie. Danica, you were very frustrated. Why?
Well, because I was like, was it 2 laps from the end I went out? The guys didn't have any telemetry all day, so they were guessing on the fuel probably, and you know that was probably what happened. That's their best guess, is we just ran out of fuel. It's just such a hard race. We were not very fast, and I don't know what the deal was, but we were just slow. I mean, we just had, every time I shifted to 6th gear, it went bong. Unless I was in a draft, it was a brutal day. It was a brutal day, and so I wish I would have brought the car home in 7th where it should have been, but things happen.
All right, let's check in with a guy that's a little bit happier. He's with Dr. Jerry Punch.
All right, Elio Castroneves becomes the points leader by getting his very first win at Michigan International Speedway. And here comes Elio out of the car. His 4th win of the year, his 11th of his career, and the first win for Penske here since 1991 when Rick Mears won it. We're going to go around here and get Elio Castroneves. He's just ran over in the crew here and is being congratulated. Hey, Elio, what was the difference there? That last pit stop you began to pull away from Vitor.
Well, I tell you, I mean, our car was very fast at the beginning when I was behind Vitor. I was just trying to work together with him. I knew it was too early in the race to try something crazy. So I didn't want, obviously I want to lead all the laps, but I knew that point is just a matter to collect most points, especially that Sam and those other guys were behind me. So I said, you know what, let's keep charging, helping out, try to make sure that we be in the end. And oh, guys, what a great feeling. This is fantastic. Woo!
Elio Castroneves is a winner and the new points leader here in IndyCar, guys.
And as we said, it's not over yet. Final thoughts, Scott?
Well, the top 4 points positions are still open for everybody, but the highest of highs and lowest of lows for Sam Hornish Jr. He can be at the president at the White House, have a parade, but he didn't come off very well here today.
It's a big race for Elio Castroneves. He's really good at the road courses. He needed that cushion. He's probably in pretty good shape now.
Well, that's going to do it for us. We'll see you Sunday, August 13th for the Kentucky Indy 300 over on ABC. We'll be on the air at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific. ABC Sports is online at ESPN.com. Just search ABC Sports. Congratulations to Elio Castroneves as he wins and takes the points lead here at Michigan. We'll see you in 2 weeks. So long, everybody.